are watching the ANEC Sports Podcast on YouTube. The show starts right now. Welcome to a special edition of the ANEC Sports Podcast. My name is Sam Frick. I'm the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, covering 30 schools across Northeast Indiana and parts of Elkhart County. That includes the ACAC, the NECC, and the Northeast 8. And as you can see on the screen here, this is a very specific NE8 game we're focusing on, and I'm here with Steve Orth of SummitCitySports.com, and we're here to break down this big matchup on Friday between the Columbia City Eagles and the New Haven Bulldogs, a critical matchup that could very well decide the Northeast State. Steve, how are things going, and what are your initial thoughts about this matchup between these two longtime rivals?
Yeah, you're right, Sam. It's pretty historic when you look at their records. They're 46-46, so 46 wins to 46 losses. So this one really breaks it to see who takes the lead. Columbia City has been on the winning end the last 3 years. New Haven sits as the front runner in the conference right now, undefeated. So if Columbia City wants to make a move to first place, they got to win on Saturday.
And New Haven's 4-0 in the conference. Columbia City, they were undefeated prior to the loss to Huntington North a couple weeks ago, where they were right there in the thick of things in that matchup. They were there in the glass. They had a pretty good offensive performance, but Blaine Freiberger of Huntington North had the last slap at the buzzer, and that is the reason why Columbia City is in the situation they're in right now, to fight for that top spot in the Northeast State. Steve, when you look at the series recently, Columbia City has won two of the last 3 meetings, I believe, and the 2 wins Columbia City had were close wins, including last year, where New Haven led by 4 with about 4 minutes to go in the game at Columbia City. Columbia City came back with some free throws, and then the last play of the game for New Haven, they had an inbound in front of the scores table. They found Johnny Washington in the right corner, and he missed the 3 at the buzzer. It went in and out. And so New Haven was that close to beating Columbia City last year, who would go on to share the Northeast State with the Belmont Braves. Steve, when you look at this matchup with Columbia City and New Haven, these are 2 contrasting teams. They play different styles of basketball, whatnot. What are some keys that we should be looking at as we head into that matchup?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that New Haven's going to do is they're going to put a lot of pressure on Columbia City's guards. This weekend I had New Haven and Norwell, and New Haven really put the press on Norwell and forced a lot of turnovers. So they're going to be really physical with Columbia City's guards. So it's going to be really important for Columbia City to limit their turnovers and also not allow New Haven to get up and run. They like to run up and down the floor and play a little more fast-paced ball game. And I wonder, when you look at Columbia City, they just played DeKalb, and it was a rough game, 41-36. So, will they take some of those mental notes of slowing the game down, working every offensive possession, and trying to keep New Haven at bay from getting out on the run? That might be a key for Columbia City, is to take a lot of time on the offensive end, try to get the best shot they can get, and limit the number of times that New Haven can get up and down the court.
And I think a key for New Haven will have to be on the glass defensively. Columbia City is one of the more athletic teams in the post in the Northeast State. When you look at a junior by the name of Landon Richmond, who's averaging 13.5 points per game, and he's usually getting right around a double-double every time he's been playing. And I know Landon had a pretty good performance against Huntington North, had 21 points, about 10 or 11 rebounds in that contest. And New Haven only averages less than 20 rebounds per game. So New Haven's one of those teams that's going to have to be able to guard the perimeter, especially when you got a guy by the name of Stratton Fuller who can get to the basket and be able to help set people up to make a basket or shoot the 3 ball and whatnot. And Columbia City's been very fortunate of having some really talented guards over the years. When you look at Stratton Fuller and you look at Aiden Denning and you look at Hedrick, right? And you look at Mitchell Wilson, who the all-time leading scorer at Columbia City. Now they've kind of coming back a little bit on size perspective, with probably Landon Richmond, to me, probably the most talented big Columbia City's had since the Hazen brothers, Bracken and Parker Hazen, about 10 years ago, played together at Columbia City and ended up having great careers at the collegiate level. Are there anything else that you think New Haven would need to do in order to be successful against Columbia City?
Well, I've been really impressed in seeing New Haven, Lavelle Ledbetter on the inside, along with DeMarcus Wright off the bench sometimes and starts too. He's been starting quite a bit, but he shoots well from a 3-point range, but he's also big. And so I wonder how they match up with Landon Richmond and how that will keep him at bay. They're both big and physical. So I'd imagine we'll see those matchups on Saturday. I also think that Tavar Baskerville just does an amazing job at running the point and keeping New Haven's offense a well-oiled machine. I mean, he plays probably 90% of the minutes for New Haven, very rarely sits out, and he's in there all the time. So I really think that interesting matchup is going to be Stratton Fuller versus Tavar Baskerville. Like, who's going to win that matchup? I would imagine they will match up together. And what happens with foul trouble? What's been really good for New Haven is they've had some pretty good bench performances. Jamal Lawrence just came off the bench against Norwell, put up 12 points, and they ended up beating Norwell by 12 points. So that's kind of the difference maker, is who's going to come off the bench and provide, some electricity for both teams. And for New Haven, it's probably going to be Jamal Lawrence if he doesn't get the start. Another one, Jadrian Wessel has been really important for the Bulldogs, averaging about 11-8 a game. So look for him to have a pretty good performance for the Bulldogs. When you switch over to Columbia City, you got to watch out for Owen Marshall, pretty good three-point shooter and point guard. So you got to keep tabs on him. So, I mean, when you look on paper, you look at their common foes, who they've played. Columbia City beat Carroll, and then New Haven got shellacked by Carroll 70-46. Whereas Columbia City beat them. Let me get it right here. 44-35. So that's going to be interesting. They both beat Concordia 61-49 for New Haven. Columbia City 65-45, pretty equal there. They both lost to Blackhawk by about 15-20 there. There's a lot of common foes, and so when you look on paper, New Haven 9-8, Columbia City 8-6, and they've both played pretty tough schedules. And if you look at Columbia City's schedule, it does not get any easier after this game. You look down the way, they got Homestead, then they got South Bend Riley, Leo, Northridge, Lures. I mean, that's a tough February heading into the postseason for Columbia City.
Mm-hmm. And also, in contrast to New Haven, if they win this game on Friday, that game against Huntington North next week could help New Haven clinch a share of the conference if they were to beat Columbia City and then beat Huntington North. So this is a massive game for the Northeast State Conference, which New Haven has not won a conference championship, I believe, since 2017. So it's been a little while since New Haven has had some success with boys basketball. I think one thing that I liked from New Haven, especially with Brandon Appleton being a first-year head coach for the New Haven Bulldogs, he has had some success in the past at Angola. One of the things that made Appleton a very good coach in the past has been him be able to have the incredible depth that he had on the Angola, specifically the girls' side, to run that full court press, always be able to force turnovers, be able to get up and down the floor. And New Haven's always been known for that over the past several years and whatnot. And I think that's where the depth of New Haven has really shown this season. Columbia City wants to slow down a little bit. They want to be able to, as Matt Schultz will always say in the past, maximize possession. So they're going to have to be able to run some clock down around 30-40 seconds at least per possession and be able to take high-quality shots, whether it means feeding off to Richmond the post or setting an offense where the set goes right to Fuller for him to do his magic. We know what we've seen from Stratton Fuller over the years on the football field, but even the basketball court, he's had some tremendous moments over the years, whether it's the moments in the wins, the buzzer beaters in Carroll, and then the football plays obviously are a highlight there
He's definitely a playmaker. You got to think that, if they're looking for a last second shot, it's going to be in his hands potentially. He's pretty clutch. He's got that gear that takes him to the next level, and that's why he's playing football at the next level next year. He's a gamer. And a lot of guys that are going to go play college football aren't playing high school basketball their senior year, and that's just pretty impressive for Stratton. Mm-hmm. Also, one thing I want to bring up too, when you look at points given up, Columbia City's holding teams to 48 points, whereas New Haven's holding them to 62. New Haven scoring 60 points a game and Columbia City scoring 55. So I think we're looking in the 50 to 60 range on this game. And I think it's going to come down to a couple possessions unless one team comes out just not shooting the ball well. And we've seen that a couple times where New Haven has come out flat And you look at some of their losses, they lost to Kokomo 90-70. Kokomo's a very good team, but to put up 70 on Kokomo, that's pretty impressive. They lost to Plainfield 81-55. So they've had some big games and then losing to Carroll 70-46, where they've come out flat. So I think it's going to be important to see how they get started. And you got to think that Coach Appleton's going to bring the full court press and put a lot of pressure on those Columbia City guards.
Yeah, and also for Columbia City, they're going to have to make sure they're watching out the weak side, right? Because New Haven can hit those threes, and I know against DeKalb, I think they drained about 9 threes in that game against DeKalb, and that was one of the reasons why it turned a game where it was like 14-12, 16-12 in the first half to New Haven winning by 19 against DeKalb was them being able to shoot the three ball, especially early and often, and then defensively, they were forcing plays getting out in transition and be able to showcase their athleticism. I think Columbia City, especially a guy like Owen Marshall, what he can do as an intangible player. And he would be kind of a guy I look as an X factor for Columbia City, is him being able to defend and be able to utilize those small intangibles with the fundamentals and be able to make some tough shots, which we've seen over the years. Steve, who's an X factor for New Haven or Columbia City that you think could have a big showing here in this game?
I think when you look at 3-point percentage, DeMarcus Wright and also Jamal Lawrence, DeMarcus Wright is shooting 37% from the 3-point line, 16 of 43. And then you got Jamal Lawrence, who's 11 of 31 for 35%. Those guys are pretty elusive from behind the arc. So I think those are going to be keys. Like, are they going to knock down the shots? If they knock down their shots, then that's going to be key for New Haven. When you look at Columbia City, you got to go with Landon Richmond and Stratton Fuller. I mean, those are the two playmakers that, if they perform well, they're going to carry Columbia City to victory. But if they struggle and New Haven's able to shut them down, I think that New Haven kind of walks away with this game.
All right, this is Steve Orth of SummitCity Sports as we preview the matchup between the Columbia City Eagles and the New Haven Bulldogs. As we mentioned, New Haven comes in 4-0 in conference play. They are 9-8 overall. Columbia City comes in 3-1 in conference play, 8-6 overall. Keep in mind, Steve, the Huntington North, who's 3-0 in conference play, they do have to play East Snowball tomorrow night and a makeup game from earlier this season, and then they got DeKalb the very next day. So Huntington North will probably have a half-game lead when it's all said and done if they do win those two games. So if New Haven were to win this game on Friday, we're talking about a potential matchup of two undefeated teams next week. And also worthy of note here, Matt Shout seeking his 100th career win as a head boys basketball coach. Keep in mind, he had a coaching stint at Jimtown, the Bethel products for Matt Shout. So he's got some personal milestone of his own. Steve, what are some final thoughts that you have as we get ready and we're previewing this matchup and we're anticipating a close matchup between Columbia City and New Haven?
Yeah, you got to think Schaus is going to have his team ready, knowing he's got a win to get 100, and then also if you win the conference championship, you got to beat New Haven. Everything's through New Haven. They beat New Haven, and then all of a sudden, Huntington North slips up. They're right back in the driver's seat, but New Haven's thinking the other thing. We got to take care of Columbia City, and if we take care of Columbia City, then we got another tough matchup. If Huntington North comes in undefeated, we got another chance for the championship next weekend. So it is exciting for the NE8 to think that the conference is going to come down the next 2 weekends and see who is going to prevail and be at the top. I don't know if you would have expected these teams at the beginning of the year to be in the run for the conference championship in the NE8. I think the consensus was possibly East Noble, possibly Leo, and to see New Haven and Columbia City kind of putting the pressure here and with an opportunity, even Huntington North's squeaking in there. So I really think the key is, how does Tavar Baskerville carry the Bulldogs, and how does Landon Richmond carry the Eagles? Those two guys are the keys to both teams, and I think whatever player has the better performance is going to help to show who wins that ball game.
Columbia City seeking to defend their conference championship from last season. New Haven only won one conference game last season. A lot of close losses in that season, but New Haven now within striking distance of winning conference championship. And also, you mentioned East Snowball, and East Snowball starting to get healthy of late. That is New Haven's last conference opponent. That game could also be interesting if it still needs to be decided there. East Snowball could be a sleeper come these final few weeks of season. But we have an exciting matchup on Friday between the Columbia City Eagles and the New Haven Bulldogs at the historic Armstrong Arena Friday nights. You can catch this on SummitCity Sports Steve Orth, thank you for taking time to talk about this matchup, and have a great call.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for watching the ANEC Sports Podcast. Please like this video and like the page ANEC Sports on YouTube. Let people know that the ANEC Sports is on YouTube. Also like our Facebook page at Around the Northeast Corner, and follow either Around the Northeast Corner and Sam Frick on Twitter/X. We're also on Instagram as well. Just look for ANEC Sports or Around the Northeast Corner, and you will find us there. You can also follow the man himself, Sam Frick, the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, for other additional content. This has been an Around the Northeast Corner presentation.